Okay, and here's the real test to see if everything tech-wise is going there. Um, welcome, welcome, welcome. We are Laughing Corpses, a Gamer's Ledge production, through Frightful Forge. These events, I just had it open and it dropped out, of course. Boop, boop. We are doing a Yep, I can hear myself. We're doing a 5e live play, a D&D 5e live play that will be starting with Radiant Citadel and then going through into Shadowrun. And we have been, over the past several weeks, going into and doing one-shots as background for each of our many players with very unique characters. All of those are on YouTube and the Gamers Ledge Twitch. So feel free to go back and dig through those, file through those if you want to get a little bit more background on some of these characters. Tonight is one of the very unique characters in that it is a Harrigan, which is one of the races I actually haven't seen played, which is awesome. I'm really looking forward to it. Um, Welcome. While most of the stuff on Gamer's Ledge is a family-friendly environment, these tales from the Forge, and as we move into the 5e game itself, are not as family-friendly. We will be getting into some of the more mature topics and possibly more mature language, so it's something to keep in mind as you watch. But more than happy to have you. Make sure you're drinking water and hanging out. And if you have any questions, feel free to hit the Gamers Ledge chat. The Frightful Forge chat, as I'm GMing, it won't be as chatty. But as always, we're going to start with a introduction of the players. Once you feel free to let people know who you're playing as well, or at least how much we have of those characters so far. We'll start with Mark, and we'll go around the circle, and we'll end with Justin at the end. That would start with Mark, and then go in a circle. I think Mark's still getting set up. Or am I on mute? Oh gosh, am I on mute? Can any of you hear me? I am so frustrated with myself.
I asked everybody when I came in if you realized that you were deafened.
No.
I thought you were doing your intro. That's yeah.
I was doing my intro, which is in the stream. I checked and I could hear it in the stream, but none of you could hear it. I'll rewind the last maybe 45 seconds. Why don't you guys go ahead and introduce yourselves? We'll start with Mark. We'll go around the circle and we'll end with Justin at the very end. Go ahead and your name and who you're going to be playing or what you're going to be playing. I know some of you don't necessarily have names yet for your characters, but let's go ahead and go in a circle. Again, starting with Mark, but this time now you can hear me.
Yes. Hi, I'm Mark. I'm playing Nurit, who is a chef. Human chef. The token human of the group. That's me.
He's a dirty human. We don't hold that against him, though.
Not even if I ask nicely.
I mean, let's talk after the stream.
So I'm like a bard with food.
I am a goblin, sir, but I am no bard.
So it's you, Shane.
In that case, I am playing Sibo Bottle Pop, the Goblin Alchemist.
Okay. Awesome. And Crow? You guys see the same grouping of videos?
No.
Yeah.
No.
That
do.
Would be why. Let's try to
Yeah,
players.
no.
There
we go.
Now you should.
Hey.
So it's Crow.
Yeah, so I'm Crow. I am playing Keck, a Thrycrane fighter.
Okay.
All right. Hello. I'm Tyler. I'm going to be playing the Bugbear monk named Kuruk.
So, being a bugbear monk, I just want you to know that I am imagining a Pandaren monk from World of Warcraft, and that is not necessarily a bad thing.
No, I would agree.
Thinks the
Am I
exact same way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think you're up, Megan.
It's you, Meg.
Okay. I'm Megan, and I'm going to be playing a pixie sorcerer named Una.
All right.
I'm Andres, and I'm going to be playing Erandi, a Harangan cleric.
And I'm Justin. I'm going to be playing Ramos, a Warforged Ranger.
Awesome, awesome. The last player is going to be playing a tiefling bard, and that is Naomi. And she'll be in a little bit. She's currently making sure that everybody in the house is fed. So doing an awesome job of making sure people are taken care of. And so tonight, though, is going to be the backstory for Randy up in the upper left. And so how this has worked in the past, for those that haven't been necessarily following along with some of the others, is we do a session with some like windows into the past of these characters, so that the players can get used to kind of seeing who this character is, how they react to things. We also get a familiarity with some of the specific things that are 5e related, how the system works, how the dice rules work. I think by now everybody probably has a good primer for what's going to be needed in certain situations. But as we move through things, it also gets some familiarity with the character sheet, so that when I say roll a dexterity save, they know where that is. So that's what tonight is. As a reminder, next Monday, will be Kingdom Death Monster, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah, Kingdom Death Monster, where we actually move from the tutorial into actual hunts and gameplay. But for
You have the proper hunting licenses already?
I do. I do.
Okay.
Mostly
Alright.
because there is no government.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh. All right.
There is a king, but
I retract my previous
you-
question, sir.
you don't want to meet him. If a white lion is deadly enough to kill one of our characters first night, you don't want to meet the king.
Oh, all right. Shut my mouth then, I guess.
All right. So, each of our characters so far, I've been trying to play with genre a little bit. Their backstories are presented in slightly different ways and with slightly different energies and vibes. Tonight, not that I'm trying to take control of your imagination, but try to picture the stuff that's being described as like an art style of Spirited Away, maybe done in some pastels and maybe a little bit of watercolor for the backdrops. It's meant to be a lot more evocative of simpler times and more of like not as industrial or violence soaked as we've seen in some of these previous adventures. It's also not the quick camera cuts of a chef on chef kitchen battle. So try to keep that in mind as we're moving through things. So without further ado, I explained so much when I was on Deafened. I am so frustrated with myself. I'll get there, I'm sure. I'll have to put post-it notes up so I don't forget. We start with a merchant caravan. It's loud. The people on it and around it, the guards watching, are very boisterous, larger humans with metal armor that clanks as they walk, and they're cutting a path through what is obviously an overgrown trail. There are 3 or 4 carts, all stacked one after another, and you can hear joking and coughing laughter coming from the caravan, which is doing no. They're not trying at all to be quiet or, have hushed voices when traveling through this fairly dense area of the jungles of Chult. It is heavily overgrown, but there are still 2 fairly deep ruts where wagon wheels and horse prints have left in the mud, though even that has begun to be overgrown. They're laughing, boisterous. Smoke is coming up from some of the wagons as they're cooking meals as they're moving, and maybe even some soft music being played from the very back wagon as it's through the forest or through the jungle. It's not long because of the amount of vegetation and the density of the vegetation. It's not long before the sounds are actually drowned out, and they make their way around the corner. The jingling it gets quieter and quieter until it's just a soft pattering echoing through the greens. And first one, boop, then 2, boop, popping up like very fast mushrooms. You see a handful of goblins. Many of them are dressed in pieces of greenery that, if not directly from the jungle, are evocative of the colors of the jungle. The colors, the patterns, they are obviously meant to match in and camouflage well. And they were invisible until they started popping their heads up like tiny mushrooms. Seeing it safe, there are bird calls that are called out from the goblins, and more of them pop up until there's about 15, 20, and they all start making their way, carrying packs or dragging sleds that have gear through the jungle, across the forest track, and disappearing into the jungle on the other side. As they are kind of making their way through and being cautious, there's also a goblin drum and some humming and music that starts up that's very upbeat and almost tribal, because the music is really just the voices of these goblins and the singular drum beat. Most of the goblins in this group are fairly young, maybe a little over adolescence. A pod that has split off of a larger goblin tribe. And they are moving through, but it's also very apparent that as they're moving across the trail into the jungle on the other side, the jungle seems to envelop them so that their trail isn't, even though they were dragging sleds and carrying heavy packs, the jungle has accepted them and there is no sign of them after they disappear into the jungle on the other side. We cut to a clearing. It looks like 2 or 3 goblins had arrived here earlier and started cutting away pieces of a fairly large clearing right next to a very smooth moving river. It's at the stage between a river and a stream, so that if somebody were to go into it, it's not powerful enough to take them downriver, but it's perfectly fine for bathing, washing, drinking. And these young goblins, scouts, have cut away enough vegetation that as this moving group that is arriving, they're starting to set up camps and set up these tents and shelters. It's almost like they too they've done this enough that the whole village of huts pops up within a few short hours. And somebody looking in from the outside might wonder how long this group has been here, because they're already one with a jungle around them. The huts, everything looks like it's been there. Small campfires are lit, and really interesting foods and smells kind of boil into being in small cook pots. As we pan across the goblins, normal goblin colors are green, and that is present here as well. A bunch of a handful of the more rare blue and red goblins are here, but they move with the rest, fully accepted. And it's very apparent that some families stick together in a big way. So they're in the larger 20-man tribe, or 20 goblin tribe. There are still smaller family units, and two of which, a set of brothers, are cooking furiously and poking fun at each other, and just kind of having a blast at each other's expense. They are two of the loudest of the entire group that is setting up camp. You can see that even though they seem happy, and the tribe as a whole seem really down to earth and just kind of built into nature, they are still boisterous. They are still they can still be loud, and that music, which was kind of gentle, has picked up a tone and has picked up and built, so that now most of the goblins are playing drums on something or humming loudly. Some of them are even inventing lyrics to go with this song, as it kind of raises into the jungles around them. There are scouts, so while looking relatively peaceful and very few recognizable weapons among them, there are scouts, and those scouts are definitely armed, and they have armor made of bark from the area, maybe leathers from the area. And one such scout, one of the brothers I spoke of earlier, pushes through greenery as he's checking out the area. The denseness of this jungle is such that very little can be heard by round-eared folk. The goblins, however, can hear vast distances anyways, and he is shocked at first when he comes across another one of the well-used trails. This one the jungle hasn't taken back yet, and there is a small set of packages along the trail. It looks like a small bundle tied up with rough spun fabric, with a letter kind of hastily shoved into the top of the bundle, and a small bundle of brightly colored fabrics that seems to be moving a little bit. Just a little bit. Would someone like to play a young goblin that is one of the lead scouts that will also be a druid later and will be responsible for some training and stuff later? No issues, because I can do it too. I just want to make sure. Okay, Mark. Yeah, I know, Gnomes. You're gonna have to pick up Kale in a little bit. You're good.
Crack walk all day, all work, no play, sleds and packs, pull, pull. Want my belly full, full.
He's singing to himself as he's looking through. You see this set of bundles ahead of you.
And I'll go over and look at what they are.
As you peek through, you see that the ones that are tied up with like rough spun fabric, it's a couple wooden boxes, almost like crates, but kind of smallish, and they seem to have vegetables that you wouldn't normally find in this area. And they're packed carefully. You can see that there's straw packed around them. And like I said, there's a note that's been rolled up and kind of shoved under one of the ties. The other is a handful of brightly colored fabric, oranges, yellows, colors you've never seen in fabric, but that you've seen in nature. And it seems to be moving slightly as if there's some kind of pupa or something inside because it's kind of wiggling.
What do I have, like a spear, or what have I got on me?
So you have you're in boar leather armor.
Okay.
So there's bristles sticking out from the boar hair, and you have a leather cap that is pointed like Peter Pan's hat. That just kind of sits on top of your head. It doesn't actually provide any cover or shade. It's just you thought it looked neat. And you have a spear and a small dagger at your side, as well as a bag of stones.
I say to myself,
It could be a trap.
and I will look up and down the well-beaten trail to see if I see any signs of movement. I listen.
Give me a perception check, which for you will be a plus 4.
That's a big old 9.
You don't hear anything. You're not sure how long these things have been here. They aren't wet from the humidity of the jungle. If something was just sitting on the ground here, a lot of times it would soak up it would soak up and be kind of damp pretty quickly. And
it doesn't. It looked like it's placed as opposed to it falling off of a wagon or something. Okay.
It definitely looks placed.
Yeah. Okay. I will. Can I read? Did I?
That's a good question. No, dude, that's just a good question. Andres. The tribe.
Yeah, they would be able. Yeah, they would be able to read.
Okay, so yeah.
Okay. So then I will slip the note out and unroll it. See what it says.
It essentially says, actually, yeah, okay. It essentially says, this is my greatest gift. Please handle with care. We had to hide him. I had it written up, but then I left it at work, and I hate when I do that. We had to hide him, and we know that he'll be safe with you, and there's no signature, and it's written in Goblin.
Okay, I will pick the moving bag up and make sure that like the hole is on top, so that I can possibly open it and look inside without whatever is inside getting out.
Yeah. As you pick it up, it squirms, but it's also still very quiet. And it squirms, but it's been wrapped really, really well. Like, it's been swaddled very, very well, so it's not like throwing punches. And as you pick it up and look at where the opening would be, a face hugger jumps out. No, I'm just kidding. You see...
It's going to be that kind of campaign, I guess.
A small, furry face with a cute little button nose and eyes that are just barely opening. And what color eyes, Andres?
They are brown.
Brown.
With like a little hint of like that.
And and you see that little kind of You've seen rabbits. There aren't rabbits here in this part of the jungle of Chult. The face reminds you of rabbit, but the shape is kind of off. And
Food? No.
feeling
Maybe.
how the body is moving, it's not a rabbit body. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So it's more like a normal goblin baby body. But yeah.
Who? But like, is there a village elder, tribal chief, a wise woman? What's the standard structure for? I don't know for goblins.
So I think there's a chieftain and also elders.
You said what was the first part?
A chieftain
Yeah.
and also,
Normally it's just
also
children,
elders.
chieftain. Yeah.
Yeah. So when your group was sent to pick up this place, it's
Mhm.
because all of the youngsters were faster.
Mhm.
And so you know that the elders and the chieftain are coming, but they're just not here yet.
Oh, they're not here yet. Okay.
Yeah, they're on their way.
So who would be like the big man on campus for this group?
Until then,
Hmm.
we're gonna say there's a scout leader, and that's gonna be Knock,
Okay.
your brother.
And my brother?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Then I will do you have a sack I can carry the vegetables and stuff in?
Yeah.
Okay. Then I will put everything in the sack, and then I will pick up the rabbit, and I will make sure to take the note and put it. I'll tuck it into my armor actually,
Okay.
and then I will go and find Knock.
Okay. You make your way back, and as you are moving the moving package, the baby
Mm-hmm.
is moving a lot more, like a lot more. And sometimes even swaddled, it's hard to hold on to it. Like it's like a cat in a box, you know. It's
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I will look at it and say,
Stop moving or I will eat you.
I'm gonna give it like a really hard kick.
Ow!
And I try to like jump, and it's just keep try to wiggle out of the swaddling.
It was swaddled originally, and you realize now that it was swaddled with its knees up.
oh,
And it doesn't have its knees up anymore, so it's swaddled like a life jacket or what is it? A straight jacket.
Straight jacket.
A straight jacket now with its legs hanging out the bottom.
Okay.
This infant is definitely not a rabbit, but it just kicked you, and you're
Yeah.
pretty sure you're gonna have a bruise in your leg.
yeah. So I'm gonna try and spin him around, holding him out, and then sling him over my back so that his feet are facing away from me.
As you, huh? Naomi says, "I'm glad Mark never babysat."
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong.
As you swing it backwards, you find
But I'm
that
pretty
there's
sure I've read in every parenting book you should threaten your children with eating them
yeah,
if they're out of line. Pretty sure.
definitely, yeah.
Or like pretending you're dead and then wait till they kiss you to wake up. So you're not a zombie.
That's a very specific.
Very
thing.
specific. Yeah.
Yeah, that's.
I think that's called grooming, Mark.
Naomi and I used to joke. We used to have a zombie game with the kids when they were really, really young, where we would pretend to be like dead on the floor, and they would come up and give us kisses or give us like like defibrillator or CPR. And Mark made after. I mean, we played it a lot, and obviously we were at the store where I worked with Mark. And Mark said, it's fun. It's all fun and games until one of you really does have something happen to you. And I went, oh yeah, that's
That is such a good point.
we're not doing that game anymore.
Oh, the kisses aren't working.
Yep.
You gotta really show them where the AED machine is.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Jump on daddy's chest. Anyway, as you swing this small package, the small baby Bjorn onto your back, you see that there are areas of the cloth you can tie together, and so you kind of improvise a sideways sling. You are a tall goblin. Tall for your age, because you're still a young goblin, but you're a tall goblin. Stretched out right now, this infant, you're assuming it's an infant, is almost as tall as you.
Jeez.
Like, just stretched out. And you make your way back through, and
I'm trying to avoid people.
Yeah.
Like other goblins.
You cut your way around wide because normally it's a pretty straight shot for some of the scouting, but you're also kind of carrying this baby, and you've got the bag of
Right.
other goods, and you kind of cut your way around, and it takes you quite a bit longer, but you come out of the jungle right near the hut you share with your brother.
Okay, I will quickly go inside, close the. Well, I don't know if the hut has a door, but
Sure, why not?
sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep.
It's all fluff. Yeah.
Yep.
So you shut the door. Arandi, you're a baby, so you don't remember much of what happened before, but you do remember smells. And the smells, even later, when you think back on this moment, you went from kind of the warm smell of like plains and wheat, like those, it's kind of hard to explain, but like wide open fields, to the really strong smell of very fertile soil and greenery and vegetation. And now you're almost choked in it because that's what this hut is. And there's really soft earth that when you get set down, your feet kind of play in the soft earth. And it's not a bad smell, it's just a strong smell that's very different and new.
So as soon as like my feet touch and kind of give into the ground a little bit, like I start like rapid firing, like tapping them to create as much of a mess as possible.
So, Greknock, which is you, Mark, as you placed the child down, and you have soft earth for the bed, right? For your flooring. It's just everywhere now. You guys had small areas and a cooking area and like 2 beds that were set up, and you had, oh man, dirt, like that soft soil is now everywhere. And you hear laughing voices from outside, which is Totnok and his girlfriend, and they sound like they're coming back towards the hut.
I will.
Yeah, and there's a loud tapping, by the way. It's not quiet. It sounds like somebody's in here with a set of drums.
Yeah, I'm gonna I'll drop the other sack, and I will pick him back up so his feet are no longer touching the ground, but I'm holding him out so he can't kick me either.
Okay.
So just flinging dirt everywhere else. The dirt that's left over.
There's still, I mean, the The baby, what you've seen of it is clean, except for now, like the lower half is just dusty, dirty. Your brother and Yams, his girlfriend,
Mhm.
open the door, and they, uh, it's like the meme, with
Yeah.
Glover, where he
Yep.
walks back into the apartment in Community, and he's holding pizza, and one person is shot, and then there's a fire, and they just stand there in the open doorway, like, what is happening? And then, Knock pushes her inside, and then looks behind him and closes the flap, the door, and he's looking at you very confused.
I thought it was food. It wasn't food. I brought it back to show you, and this happened.
Yams immediately, like, she was looking at the mess, and you're holding this thing up in front of you, and
Yes.
essentially, you look right now. Irandi looks like a furry frog, is what you look like, because your top half is still swaddled, and you have these long legs sticking out from the bottom, but they're kind of furry, thin, baby legs, and you're holding it out, and there's a very quiet mewling sound for just a moment from the baby, and Jom's eyes go wide, and she has this gigantic goblin toothy grin that you can only get in true goblin happiness, and she rushes over and grabs this small bundle and starts unwrapping it.
I quickly, like, as she starts to unwrap it, I like grab her wrist and I say,
Don't eat it, maybe.
You can't eat this.
Okay.
I don't know what it is, but no eat.
I think it's a baby, but it's making a huge mess. Sorry.
I say to Top Knock.
He shakes his head and he goes, I mean, what is life without mess? And once the baby is unwrapped, essentially, you can see it has like a really nice jumper. So like diaper and then like a onesie over the diaper, but it cuts off at like mid hip and covers like up to the arms, and it is absolutely a tiny humanoid rabbit person. It has long ears that seem to be way too long for what it is. Well, I mean, you don't know because you've never seen one, but the ears are like middle of the back. And now that it's been de-swaddled, the ears, boom, they're up top, and this rabbit child is now with ears, standing up, kind of like it's kind of wobbling. Probably 8 inches taller than the tallest goblin in the camp right now. You have just been deswaddled. There is a blue goblin standing in front of you with a huge grin on her face, and she is holding on to the kind of things you were swaddled in, and she's her eyes have that like bluish sparkle of excitement and warmth and caring, immediate caring, and she's just got this huge grin all for you. But you've been unswaddled in this hut.
Yeah, so as soon as I've been set free, just like I can, like the itch in my back, I can finally get to it. So I drop to the ground and just start like rolling and like getting myself like a healthy coating of dirt, and then hit that scratch, and just like sit there. Now I'm content. Like the thing that was bugging me and like causing all the like energy is done, and I can just relax. And now I'm just I'm sitting there watching them, but my ears are like constantly like moving to like listen for everything around me.
Now that your ears have been freed, it's like a whole new world to you. Because while it wasn't like, by no means was it like deafening what you were picking up, there definitely was a layer there of not being able to hear everything, and now you can hear pretty much everything that's happening in camp. The jokes people are telling, while you don't understand the language, and you're still really young to be able to kind of pick up on those nuances, you pick up like the sound of. I promised myself I wasn't going to say this too often, but hobbits preparing for Bilbo's party is kind of the atmosphere you're hearing from these huts, because these goblins are building an area for the elders and the chief who's coming, and they're all super chill.
Nasty hobbitses.
It's definitely more
Stupid fat hobbitses.
and so this is part of why I promised I wasn't to myself. I wasn't gonna
Yes, of
by the
course
way.
you would. Of course.
But I wanted to get across that it's a very cozy core, like cottagecore,
Cottagecore.
but like super
Yeah.
cozy and
Well, it was.
the goblin form.
Cottage core. I don't think I've ever heard that before. That's a new
Yeah,
one.
it's a thing.
If
Wow.
you
Alright.
go to Lexi's Facebook,
Mhm.
that's
Yeah,
that's like all she posts.
That is my wife.
Just
amazing.
cottage core.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cottagecore.
Alright.
Okay.
Oh, so I pull out the note and I hand it to Top Knock and I say,
Goblin left this for us. Said they had to hide it.
Huh. He walks over to you. It's a goblin with deep green skin, mottled with light green freckles. And he leans over you as you're kind of laying in your dirty pile. And he says, "Why would anyone want to hide you?" And we cut from there to a series of slices. In a movie or a TV show, this would be a montage of scenes, and the Irandi as a small Harrigan child. Is it Harrigan?
I think it's
I think
here and
so.
gone.
Here and gone.
Oh yeah, that makes sense because that's here and
yeah,
gone.
because I was joking. He's here and gone.
Oh, okay. There you go. As a small hearing gun, is like a child with the worst ADHD you've ever seen. Always active, always moving, always jumping from one thing to the next. Even the goblins around them are seem to be a model of focus when compared to this small child who is just filled with so much boundless energy. And as the child grows through these pictures, you can see that the goblins are aging, the huts and the small goblin village is growing a little bit. And as it grows, it's both growing in population, but it's also growing in the number of amenities that it has. Part of the huts move across the river, so now this small tribe has a small bridge that goes across and kind of builds up that cottage style life. The elders get there, There's a lot of rejoicing, and it's not long before, obviously, the Harengon is much larger than the goblins, but still runs with the goblins and is often kind of moving hunched over so that he can be a little bit closer to the height, but even hunched over, Erandi is head and ears way above his family that he's grown up with. The family, all told, Toknok and Yams and Gretnok, end up having several. Well, Gretnok, the brother, has his own hut a little bit further away as he starts his training. Oh, you know what? You had a word. I need to find that word. Yeah. Are you gonna show up? No, good. Give me 1 second. Why are you doing this to me?
Was it something I sent you?
Yeah. It was the name of the, like, the leader.
Oh,
Like,
the Nilbog.
the Nilbog, yeah. Nilbog?
Yeah, it's just goblin backwards.
Okay. Bookmark. Okay. Okay. The Nilbog, who is part shaman, part druid, and is training, Gretnok, has a hut a little bit further off from the main tribe so that they can practice their magics and their jungle craft, their druid craft, jungle craft, without being interrupted or distressing any of the other goblins. But you grow up, Erandi, with several brothers and sisters, of varying hues from dark green to deep blues, and all of them are jealous of how fast you can get around. But I mean, roughhousing. It's a very chill environment growing up, where there is learning, and you all learn to read, and you all learn the importance of giving back to the jungle and what is okay to eat and what's not okay to eat. As you get older, Arandi, it becomes very apparent also that you pick up on things faster than some of the other goblin children. You're kind of growing up in some ways faster and in some ways slower than some of them. But they don't, the teachers and the elders who are also teaching other things don't seem to hold back knowledge from you like they would possibly from some of the goblins. So you learn what poisons and what are poisons and what are poisonous that can be used later from the jungles of Chult. How the hunters use these things, why the hunters use these things, and you kind of learn the respectful nature of what the goblins have built with the jungle of Chult. It isn't long before you can pass through this area on scouting missions and stuff, the same as any of the goblin scouts would. And in some ways better, because while normal goblin scout hearing covers a wide area, you've always known you can hear better. You just pick up on it a lot faster. And so over these slices, we see you go from infant to young child to adolescent, and the montage slows to the point where you are just getting to that awkward stage between adolescent and what you could call young adult. Part of your clothing has been made up from the fabrics that you were found in. So there's little bits of the orange and yellows that really complement your fur. And also as a kind of a remembrance of what they found. Where they found you in. And you've been trained kind of with the best. But also it's hard for them to get you to sit still. So sometimes lessons that they give you, they have to give you in pieces over a longer period of time than some of these other goblin children. And they know that. They've been training you, they've been training everybody, and you've become definitely a goblin.
An asset.
Yeah. Yes, you've been an asset, definitely, but you're definitely a what do they call that? Honorary goblin.
Yeah.
Greknog, in an effort to hopefully slow him down, he has been getting high mark, in all of his trainings and the like. It just takes a while, and so you had the idea that perhaps since you are the next in line for the Nobog and for the Druidic training, that maybe it wouldn't be a bad idea to start teaching him about faith. This goblin tribe is a very faithful, spirited tribe, and while your faith of the jungle and the druidic traditions talks to you deep in your soul, that is one area that actually Arandi hasn't been trained very much in, is following the paths of the Nameless One, which is the nameless goblin deity, for at least this area, though you know that the followers of the Nameless One have come from much further than Chult. I'm sorry. I said Nameless One. It's the Nameless Grin.
But I ascribe to the teachings of the forest.
So you almost all of the... What is the name of this tribe? Do you have that written down somewhere? I know it was in the notes, but I didn't...
Was it?
Yeah. I'll find it.
Oh, Sleeping Root.
Sleeping Root. So all of the goblins of the Sleeping Root tribe, well, not all, but many, kind of worship in their own ways the Nameless Grin.
Okay.
But in their own ways. There isn't like... It's not like a deeply rooted faith here necessarily where there are specific traditions. So a lot of them worship in their own ways. You are funneling that faith through nature and the world around you.
Okay, got it.
And so we open at the end of the montage on you in your hut with the hearing gun kind of crouching, sitting on a small stump as a chair to fit in your hut.
Irandi, I wanted to talk to you about something.
What is it, Uncle Repnot? And I start nervously tapping my foot because I want to talk with you about something is not always a good thing.
You're not in trouble. Calm down. Like we talked. Slow, relax, or I will eat you tomorrow.
When you go, or I will eat you tomorrow, I also mouth it. This is definitely something I've heard a lot.
So, I have noticed in your trainings, no one has talked to you about what you believe.
You mean like, I don't know what you mean.
So many of us here at the camp, we believe in the nameless grin. And how we worship the nameless grin is different. But most of us believe that the nameless grin is responsible for our existence. And I choose to believe that the nameless grin is responsible for us finding harmony with the forest. But that doesn't mean that that's what you should believe. Does that make sense?
No.
So maybe think about it this way. You were brought to us by someone we don't know. We don't know why. But you survived. You made it here. And that probably wasn't an accident. Top Knock and Yums and I all believe that you were brought here for us to protect you. We believe that even though we don't have any tangible proof of that. Does that make sense?
No.
So,
And
there's
I'm
you.
like, I have one ear pointed at you, like I'm listening, and I'm looking at you, but my other ear is now starting to twitch and listen to other stuff.
I smack
the other ear.
Stay focused. Aaron God, come on.
Okay,
How many?
When I say okay, like I hunch and my ears go back.
Okay. How many people are in this village
Right now?
Mm-hmm.
And I do move my ear to listen.
Mm-hmm.
Can I do a perception check?
Yes, please.
That's a dice. 19.
You're not entirely certain, but you know the number is between 48 and maybe 52, depending on how quiet some of these other people are being, but that's still a very accurate number for how many people you hear.
50.
Okay. How many people are in this forest?
Oh no, I can't hear that far.
How many animals are in this forest to feed the people that are in this forest?
Lot.
How many people are on this continent?
You've
Why?
Yeah. Okay.
Like
Why?
I've lost the point now. I'm like, why?
Yep. So the point is that each of us has a purpose in this world. Do you know what yours is?
No.
And sometimes, in order to find that purpose, you have to believe in something, even though you don't have any proof.
So like how Top Knot thinks that blue frogs taste better than the green spotted ones, even.
Getting there, but more along the lines of sometimes you just need to believe that you are on the right path in order to make the right path happen. Sometimes you don't know how things are going to turn out, but you have to believe in yourself that you're going to be able to make it work out okay. And sometimes it won't. But belief is having the power to try to do the things you set out to do. and belief in something more than us. You asked why. Why did I ask all those questions about all the people in the forest, all the animals in the forest? Why are we here? Why are they here? That's all wrapped up into belief.
Out of character, I love that you're making the atheist explain religion, by the way. I love you, Daniel.
Happy accidents.
It's not something that you're going to be able to answer today or answer tomorrow, but it's something I want you to think about. Why are you here? What do you want to do with your life? Why do you think you were put here? Because that's what we think about every day. And I don't have all the answers. No one does. But we have the ability to look at the world bigger than ourselves and try and make meaning of it. And sometimes that's where belief comes in.
So that you're talking about, if I have questions, maybe I should look to the Nameless Grin for some of those answers?
You can. I'm not going to dissuade you from doing that. But there are other faiths and other beliefs out there. And the Nameless Grin may not be the right fit for you.
I am questioning whether there would even be a book on religion in a goblin village.
So, the way I pictured it, and please correct me if it's different than the way you pictured it, but the way I pictured it is like 95% of all of the stories, all of the teachings, everything is word of mouth.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Oral traditions are extremely important, and they make a big deal of making sure that when an oral tradition is passed, it's passed as close to word for word as possible.
And that's super typical with tribes.
Yeah,
Yep.
and so now that being said, in your hut, part of your training with the Nilbog,
Mhm.
is there are a series of smaller books that is a technique that you guys have picked up from some other traveling nomadic tribes that aren't goblins. And one of the ones you have has drawings and clippings of some of the plants that are local to your current area. And so that is an example. That would be something that would be hard to do to pass oral tradition. And so you actually have physical representations, dried flowers, dried plants, and drawings of them.
I will also be honest, I don't know a lot about other races' gods, but the Nameless Grin has always taken care of us and brought you to us. And I think that the reason that he brought you to us is because he saw that we live with the forest and not on the forest, if that makes sense.
No.
That's okay. But just think about what I've said. Like I said, you won't have all the answers today. None of us do. But it's something you should think about as you move forward in your training, in your eventually maybe travels.
Well, when you mentioned travels, I kind of do light up a little bit.
What do you think you want to do eventually?
I don't know. I don't know. I want to maybe see more of the jungle. I don't know. Whenever the dwarves come in to trade for for herbs, they always talk about some of the cities. I want to go see them.
I did not think you would stay here forever. But maybe I won't stay forever either. I'm not sure. Top Knock has yums, but there is a wide world out there. And I understand you're wanting to go.
Just for a little bit, just to go see, and then come back. Maybe.
Intentions and reality don't always meet. But I want you to remember one thing from this conversation. Whenever you feel scared or you feel lost, I want you to close your eyes, still your breathing, and think of the river, and think of the village. I know it's hard for you, but try and really think about it.
I'm gonna try and do it right now. Just like so, he'll close his eyes, and like the tapping stops. His tail kind of slows its like movement, and my ears were like moving around a lot, and then they kind of stop, just kind of like slowly scan a little bit, and then go down. As I like start to picture the village the way it is, the like little bridges between the huts, the flowing of the river nearby, and just get a good. Now that I have like the visual, I start building like the sounds of it, the smells, the way the grass feels like after the rain, and just perfectly form the village.
You're somewhat startled as you feel Greknock's hand on your head.
So at that point, I'm gonna jump. I'm gonna use my Harangan ability to jump 10 feet.
Oh, well, we had it for a second.
This is the
And, like,
longest
I immediately like hit my head on like the like roof. And
I was about to say, yep, you hit your head on the.
And I've got a hole in my roof. I was going to tell you, good job. You did a good job. You did do a good job. I shouldn't have ruined the moment. That's on me.
I like look at the hole in the roof and like, I'll go get more branches again.
You get the branches, I'll put them up there. Thank you.
It's not the first hole I put in your roof.
As we good. As you kind of duck your head and go and walk out, we get another set of flashes. This time, you training with your uncle, and while not necessarily training to become a druid like he's training to become to do, his training is more like what you guys were doing at the end. Trying to just slow things down, meditate, think about your life here, what you want to do, what you think about just these different. Sometimes he hits you with some pretty big topics and thoughts that you haven't considered before, like the Pantheon he was just mentioning. And some of this stuff really has you thinking. The meditation in the very beginning does start very slowly. You're only meditating for a couple seconds, and then you're good. You're gonna get up and go work on that thing. But over time, you get to a point where kind of sitting, and you guys are not far from the main camp, but you're not right next to it, right? So it is a little bit easier to not focus on every sound in the village from where you guys are. And so you start being able to, while it's not normal for you, sit and think about this stuff. I mean, your ears are still diving all over the place, but you're able to start kind of taking that in. And while some of the topics straight up are over your head that he was talking about, some of it does it. You have a certain feeling about it. Yes, Mark.
Are we doing any combat training as well?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So can I interject one thing
Please,
here?
please do.
One thing that he would want to teach you is to try and, when you are fighting, use the meditation technique when you're actively fighting, so that you are in a bubble inside your mind and you can calmly and coolly assess everything that's going on.
Yeah, I never get any mastery over that.
Yeah, probably not. But I think he was going to try it nonetheless.
Even the meditation for you is by no means a mastery. But you go from like 10 solid seconds to maybe 2.5 minutes. And that's like leaps
An
and
eternity.
bounds better, yeah. And when I say combat training, it's very much self-defense and the type of combat you might get as a scout. There are no warriors really in this tribe. They definitely rely more on setting up traps, setting up alarms, setting this stuff up further out into the jungle so that they can be prepared. The bridges that separate both sides of the village across the river, you know, for both from experience and because you watched it being built, it's made to fall. There's pieces that can be pulled out pretty easily to separate, and so you know that the Sleeping Root tribe is much more pointed at trying to get away than trying to put up a big fight. That being said, you have seen weapons around thee from some of the elders. They still have weapons, but most of them are wrapped in some kind of cloth and hidden under a bed or something. You just pick up on things and see things because you're always looking. As you have been spending time with your uncle, who is in training, you also spend time with the Nilbog, who is, if not the chieftain himself, a very close second. Right? This is the tribe's shamanic leader that makes a lot more of the decisions in the village, in this hut village, than even the chieftain does sometimes. Most people in the Sleeping Root tribe know that the chieftain's job is more for when you guys are moving. And once you're in place, the Nilbog kind of takes the reins and makes sure everybody has what they need and that everybody's being trained and knowledgeable. Because essentially the Nilbog holds all of the oral traditions. Or not all, but a lot of the oral traditions. Which is one of the things being passed to your uncle. It is on one of these early mornings that you are training with your uncle, and he has a series of plants that have been replanted in moving planters, like planters that are easily transported. And he's showing you kind of the viscous sap of some of them and how it can be applied to certain wounds and how it can speed up healing. When some of the louder alarms that have been set up around the camp about 200 feet out start going off. Most of them are things that jangle, like bamboo, chimes, but set up so that when they move, normally they don't wiggle, but if somebody were to move them, they go off like crazy, and you start hearing those. You start hearing those before the goblins around you start hearing them.
I stand up and shout that there's an alarm.
Okay. You hear almost every goblin stop dead in their tracks, and all of them seem to be listening really, really, like, that is their focus right now. It's almost like time stop, just poof. And then almost at the same time, everyone begins moving. Some of the smaller baby gobbos start screaming, or they're super worried, and they get calmed down pretty easily, and you can see that most of the goblins are moving across the bridge to the other side of the river, but you also know they aren't going to be fast enough. The alarms that you guys have set up, whatever's coming, it's pretty quick.
Oh, because it's setting off like a secondary alarm. Because you said that there were like multiple ones.
Yep, so that you guys can
So,
tell
like,
if something just skirted the outside, it might set off like the third alarm. But this is setting off the third alarm, the second alarm, and it's not just in one spot. Whatever's coming is coming like this, like from multiple avenues. Yes, Mark.
How far are we from the hut?
You guys were at your hut.
Are we in the hut?
You were outside the hut, showing him just some of the different plants that were healing salves and stuff.
Come on.
And I'm going to try and make beeline for the door.
Okay.
Because my spear is inside.
All right. You make your way inside quickly. You guys were like right out front. So, you do see that the wizened, aged Nilbog is, trying to gather up his, most important items into a sack, and he's much older. He uses, his Nilbog staff, which is his, sign of office, to walk. So he is not even ready yet, and his hut is like right near yours.
all right, so he's going into the hut. I'm gonna go to the Nilbog to help him.
Okay. As Gretnock, you go inside. You start donning your armor. You note that it doesn't fit you quite right, because you haven't worn it in a while, but you're kind of squeezing into it and sliding things into place and tying it where it needs to be and grabbing your spear. Arandi, as you kind of make your way over, you see that this normally happy, wise old goblin, he is taking a teapot off of his cook fire. He's trying to kick dirt onto the cook fire. He's wrapping up his bedrolls, like, I would say with haste, but it's like my with haste versus any of y'all's haste. He's doing his best, but he's not moving with a quickness.
So he was like trying to put out the fire. I put out the fire. I wrap things up. Like everything that he was like half getting done, I'm finishing quickly and like moving on to the next task to like help him, and like, we need to get going. Let's go. And like I'm standing behind him, like trying to like edge him out the door, like rapidly tapping my foot. My tail's like just rapid firing back and forth as my ears are constantly scanning for like
so
the noise.
That whatever it is that's coming is now within 50 feet. They're cutting their way through the jungle. Like, they're not using small goblin paths. They're cutting their way through the jungle, and they are your size. So whatever they are not small. They are cutting their way through the jungle, which you guys don't do anyway. and they're heading straight for the whole village. There are at least 2 of whatever these are coming almost directly for this section of the village, which is like out a little bit. As you are helping kind of like pile up and pack things, the Nobod turns and goes, "Oh, I also need this. Oh, you have to take this," and he's grabbing additional things and like putting them on the sack.
Can I do insight to kind of gauge like what really important in here, so I could just grab those things and put them in?
So you have been in this hut quite a bit in the last couple of years, both in training and to fetch things, and because you're quick, so you run back and forth pretty easily. You take one of his sacks, one of his smaller sacks, and you scoop all of the healing salves and rolls, and you just into that bag, and you set it to the side. And you grab his like rolled up toolkit, and you're like hurrying. You're like quickly just packing all the things. And he seems a little overwhelmed, but realizes what you're doing and says, "Oh, it's been such a long time since we've had any kind of invasion or attack. I'm not sure what's going on." And he's trying, while you're scooping things up, he's trying to grab the largest of the sacks and throw it over his shoulder, and he's moving towards the door.
I'll take the sack and just kind of like give him my arm to like, let's go.
Okay.
We gotta get moving.
Yes, Mark.
Can I prepare to cast Entangle
Yes.
on when they actually arrive?
Sure. Yep.
Thank you. And I'm going to start moving towards them for however far I get.
Okay. Naomi says she's picturing the scene with the sloth from Zootopia.
Mm-hmm.
What? I mean, oh, yeah, we'll have to. I'll figure that out at break. Okay, so as you leave the Nobog hut, and as you leave your own hut, kind of standing, readying yourself,
Right.
the Nobog isn't too far when you hear. It's a shout, a painful shout, and also a certain level of chanting. There are a couple fully grown humans. Fully grown humans. That break their way into the clearing. One of them has a large. It's like made of wood, but it's a bear trap on his leg. Like he hit one of the traps you guys have left out, and it's tied to a bunch of stones behind it, so it's slowing him down, and he's trying to reach down and mess with it now that he's in like a clearing. The other one is standing a little bit ways away and sees what's happening and sees you, Dricknock, sees you, Arandi, and the Nilbog, and he's not sure what he should be doing. Let me describe them really quick and then I'll get to that. Both of these humans that you see are dressed in traditional adventuring gear, like leather armor, backpack, weapons, but all of the gear has been dyed black with white details, and the white details are now like muddy and filthy because they've been cutting their way through the jungle. There's green stains on part of it, and you can see a holy symbol hanging from both of their necks, because you only see two of them at this point. Arandi, you hear through passive perception, so I don't need to make you roll. You hear essentially the same thing happening in other areas of the village, and you also hear goblins like crying out and screaming, and loud goblin shouts of confidence from the elder. You recognize the elder's voices, and the elders are trying to keep them moving across the bridge while they prepare to hold off whatever these are. The holy symbol you guys see is a black sun that has, like, it's a metal holy symbol. There's a black sun that has teardrops of blood that dangle from each of the flaming points of the sun.
Well, that seems like it's a very happy-go-lucky
Set a
god.
black sun and then blood drops.
Yeah, off the pointy parts of the sun.
Off the pointy parts of the sun.
Ew. Um.
It does not give you happy-go-lucky vibes. Huh?
So
It's nothing you've seen before, yeah.
Yeah, as I'm helping the Nobog like move, I'm gonna like, as I'm like moving him, when I touch his staff, can I cast a spell? One of my flag spells?
So, as you have been meditating, you have been finding that those areas of your faith have been kind of speaking to you. And you haven't. I'm trying to think of a better way to put that, because it isn't a family show, but
No, it is not a family show.
I know it's not a family show, but still, I don't want jokes from you guys. So, when you touch the Nobog's staff, you feel power running through you. That's what I was saying. So, no, but you almost, it's almost like a door. What was that? It's almost like a door opens in your mind for a second, and through that door, you can see access to a power you've never seen before. So
yeah,
as you're doing that, your uncle puts his long goblin digits forward and begins muttering a chant, and you see vines from the jungle all around these two begin to grow and wrap around the lower extremities of both of these humans, entangling them and tying them rooted to the spot. You were saying?
So when I feel that power like unlock, one of my first thoughts is like, I want to hide us, and so I'd like to cast Sanctuary on the Nilbog.
Okay. All right. So how does Sanctuary show up fluff-wise for you in this moment?
It's almost like a perception filter on the Nilbog. Like, people who mean the Nilbog harm almost can't perceive them in the same way that like the unknown grin hides from Magubliet.
Okay.
Is it Magubliet? I forget which one. The mean goblin god.
The mean goblin god, yeah. yeah. Ironically, the normal goblin god.
Yes.
Right.
One of the reasons that your tribe is not normal. As you kind of think about this, I just need to hide him, and your thoughts and faith is kind of boiling out of you through the staff. The Nilbog himself almost takes on, like, it's almost hard to look at him. Like, every time you're looking at him, trying to get him to move, and as you're looking at him, it feels like you have something in your eye, like a hair in your eye or something, and so you turn away and you're like, okay, cool. I'm not sure what I just did, but you feel like you have made him safer, like that thought and feeling is within you as you look back and see the humans attempting to cut themselves free from these living vines that are wrapping around them. The cries from the rest of the village, there's a lot of sound coming from there now. The sounds of combat, which you've never actually heard, but are still somehow familiar. You're not sure why or how. And that's coming from the other parts of the village. You hear the mutterings of the Nilbog as he is still trying to move away from the two humans. And what are you doing, Gritnard?
So I am moving to them, and I'm gonna help. I'm gonna help pick up the elder.
Okay.
And so we can move faster and try and get out of the village.
Okay. As you guys are looking over,
but
yes,
I'm also going, as I'm doing so, I'm gonna dig through my sack and I'm gonna pull out rope. And once we clear like this area where they can't see us anymore, I'm gonna set a snare.
Okay. You both, between both of you, first of all, as you move back, you're not sure what happened, Great Nod, but it took you a second to even see where the Nilbog was. Like, you thought you saw him, and then you turned around and looked at the guys again, and then when you turned back, he wasn't there, and then you moved a little bit and he was there. You're not sure what happened, but it could just be the chaos of what's going on.
Right.
And as you make your way over, between Arandi, who could probably pick up the Elder and his stuff and carry him, but you know that the Nilbog would not be okay with that. Between the both of you, you're able to kind of speed this process up, helping the Nilbog get further away from these two. As you round the corner on the path to get back to the main sleeping route village, you hear a scream from the person behind you, and a yell, a scream and an angry yell, as they seem to cut themselves free, and you hear them ransacking your huts. Like, you hear the sound of them cutting their way into your huts and tossing the rooms. You stop for a moment to set a snare to one of the trees, and then you cover it up as best you can. Great night. And you guys continue moving towards the village, and you can see there are maybe eight more of these large, burly figures dressed, if not the same, very, very close.
Did I make a mistake? We are not going to the center of the town. We're going out, like away to get out
into the jungle.
Into the jungle.
Bridge?
No,
okay.
No.
Okay. Yeah, I thought you were heading towards the bridge.
No.
As you make your way, you push into the jungle, because there are some areas where it's easier than others, but one of the reasons that your huts, the two huts, were where they were was because there was a lot of jungle vegetation to stop sound and to stop magic and to stop a lot of things as you're practicing. You guys kind of move into that more dense vegetation of the jungle. Did you want to do something different, Arandi?
When no, you know what? I'm gonna hold off and just be helping the elder for now. And yeah, I'm trying to like look for places where we can hide.
Okay.
I need to be able to hide the nilbog.
Give me a perception check, both of you. As you guys are pushing through this dense vegetation and looking for a good hiding spot.
I got an 8.
Okay. It is
I rolled
very...
on an. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I rolled a 9 on the dice.
Okay, and it's +4, so 13. As you guys make your way into this dense vegetation, as you're kind of overwhelmed a little bit. It's pushing in on you on all sides. You're doing a good job of kind of closing up the vegetation behind you, like you've been trained, like all of you have been trained, but there isn't anything that just pops out as a good hiding space to you. But you're able to kind of push him down into a crevice between two jungle trees, and you notice almost at the same time he obviously doesn't have the big bag of stuff that you guys were carrying, because you couldn't easily bring that into the dense jungle, but he's also missing his staff.
I go back.
You're gonna go back? Is that what you said?
I go back to get the stuff.
Okay. So, what are you doing, Gretnock?
You hear me harshly whisper,
Watch out for the snare.
Oh yeah, watch out for the snare. Yeah.
I don't know where the stuff was lost compared to that, but I tried to put the snare where if they rounded the corner and came after us going into the jungle, that's where it would have been.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he saw me put it down. It
Right.
took like a minute. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Still, that would have been really funny.
Yeah. No.
Mark messing up people's backstories like he's jumping in a hole.
Yeah.
All right, so
is there a cliff I could jump off of? Or...
I approve of this message.
You you make your way back through, again, making sure to kind of close up the areas in the jungle that you're walking through. And as you make your way back out, peeking out around the corner to see, you don't see the two individuals that were kind of messing up the area yet. You still hear them over there, but you do hear other humans coming up the path from the other direction, from the village itself. And you can still see kind of where the snare was, because you've been trained to look for that. And you can see across the path is the large bag that has all of the smaller bags that has his stuff, but you don't see his staff.
I'll go grab the stuff.
Okay.
And then I'd like to throw a rock over by the snare to try and lure them that way.
Okay. Give me a stealth check as you are crossing this path to get the bag.
21.
See, I knew you're gonna have to roll good at some point. You make your way out. You hear them coming. Your ear twitches to that side, so you hear them rounding the bend, and you throw a rock. Thinking quickly, you throw a rock to where the snare was, and then back up. And a combination of those factors allowed them. You see them pass right by you, and one of them says, "We've already been this way," and it's common, which is not a language that you were taught, but it's a language you understand. And no one around you has spoken this language, so you're not sure how you understood what he was saying, but you understood what he was saying, and you know it's not Goblin. And he said, and the other one says, "Yeah, but I want more gear." and he walks through, and trophies. And they rush by, and you can see that one of them steps straight into the snare, sets it off, and gets yanked into the jungle to the right. And the other one's stands still for a second. Oh, Charlie! And he goes and runs, trying to push his way into the jungle where the snare pulled him in.
Yeah, I can't help but laugh.
Give me a perception check.
8.
8. You don't notice until you've already started kind of quietly chuckling to yourself. Tucked into his belt, the one that got yanked into the jungle, was the Nobog's staff. When he said he was
The
looking,
one that got yanked in has the staff?
Yep. The one, they had talked about how they'd already been passed this way and they wanted more trophies. And that must be the trophy they were talking about. That one was talking about.
I gotta go get the staff. Alright, I gotta go after the staff.
Okay. Yes, Mark.
What is my visual tracking acuity on him during all this as I'm protecting the
So,
Nubog?
because he pushed back through the dense foliage of the jungle, you don't see him at all.
Okay.
And you stopped hearing him when he left and got out into the pack, but you
Yeah.
heard the two humans kind of stomping up the path, and then you definitely heard one get yanked sideways into the jungle from your snare, and the other one loudly now tromping through the jungle, pushing things aside to try to help his friend.
Can I tell the Nilwog to stay here? And I'm going to quietly head in that direction. And if I see the one that's not strung up, I would like to cast one of my cantrips, which is trying to remember the name of it. Hold on. Infestation.
Okay. What does that look like for you?
So where he's standing on that spot, a series of maggots and mosquitoes. The maggots crawl up from the ground and the mosquitoes come out of the jungle and begin to bite and attack him. And if he doesn't succeed a con saving throw, he takes 1d6 poison damage and moves 5 feet in a random direction. And it's just a d4 for the direction.
Okay. And you're doing that to
The one that's not strung up.
Okay.
Because I don't want him to cut the other guy down. So I'm making my way in the direction that I heard him get yoinked, where the snare did its thing.
Yeah. Okay, so, but you're making your way through the jungle towards the sound
Correct.
of them, not going out
Correct.
and around, which is what
Correct.
Around is doing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll be back.
You got it.
Will you, though? Will you be back? That's the question.
I'll be back.
And, okay, so you guys are kind of cutting two different directions to try to head this off of the path. And as you kind of get to a spot where you can see, it's not really clear, but it's clear enough, you can see where one of them has his, it's not like he's hanging up in the air, because, I mean, you're a goblin and you only had like 3 minutes. But his leg...
It's actually a spell.
Oh.
Snare is a spell.
Oh, I thought you were setting a snare.
Yeah, I still have to set it, but it is a spell.
I thought you were setting a non-spell snare.
Oh, no. I was using his druid snare.
Okay.
Spell.
Then, yeah.
Sorry, I should have articulated that better.
He's about
My
10
fault.
feet into the jungle. Well, I mean, it's fine. But he's 10 feet into the jungle and is hanging up about 2.5 feet off the ground.
Yep.
His hands are dangling. And his friend has just tromped through and sees him and is laughing at him, but is also starts to raise a knife to cut at the, I'm gonna say, like, jungle twine that's being used. Irandi, you are sneaking and you come upon them at about the same time, where you're seeing one of the bigger guys. All of humans are the same, and he's up trying to cut the rope that's holding his friend up upside down, who is cursing and yelling. And as you kind of move around the corner and you can see them clearly, you hear before you see a swarm of mosquitoes that has moved through the forest, begins to target the one with a knife, and around his feet you can see small wiggling masses grow up and start crawling up his feet, and he screams and go ahead and roll damage for me, Mark. And if you would roll a d4.
Yes. 2 seconds. I will do exactly that. As I drop all my dice everywhere. D4.
And I think a d6, you said? D6 damage?
Yeah. D4 is a 4.
Okay.
And the D6 is... Where's the D6? There it is. What is this? A 5. So 5 points of poison damage.
Okay. That's not a small amount. And the direction he's running is straight at you, Iranti. So he freaks out. There are mosquitoes, like, taking shots at his eyes and his face, and he's swatting at them, and he's trying to run away from these masses that are now coming out, essentially growing all over him. And he is running straight at you. He doesn't even seem to see you.
I will point it. He's not holding it, right?
So it's the one that's upside down that has it tucked in his belt. The one that's running at you has a knife in his hand, but it seems like he's forgotten that his knife is in his hand as he's cutting himself, swatting at the mosquitoes in his hand. Not like deep or anything, but he's got scratches.
Yeah. All right. Then I'm gonna move. Use my jump act, that Hurricane jump, to jump over him and get to the guy so I can take the staff from him.
All right. Give me an athletics check.
Ooh, because I'm super good.
Athletics or acrobatics, because you are jumping through a dense jungle over the guy.
I got that 20.
Okay. How do you want to do this?
Yeah, so I run and I just, like I said, it's not like flashy or anything. I just jump over the guy, run over to the other that's dangling upside down, and just like reach up, take the staff, thank him, and then run.
So, here's how this is playing out in my head. You see him running straight at you, and in typical, Spirited Away anime fashion, you go to jump off of him, 1 foot on the dense jungle next to you, and you jump up. One of your feet actually presses on his back and kicks him as you land next to his friend, grab the staff, and jet into the jungle. Which direction are you running in the jungle?
I totally forgot where the Bilbog is, and I run in the direction I think he's in.
Okay. Mark, can you go ahead and give me another D4?
Yes. Also, by the way, I believe the correct proper term is rabbit matrix. That was the jump he did.
Rabbit matrix.
Rabbit matrix. Where D4 coming up. 2.
Okay. you take off into the jungle. You've never been in a situation like this before. You're trying your best, but there's a lot of confusing things happening. But you have the staff in your hand. And as this staff is now in your hand and not touching another person, you feel something, a weight that you didn't realize had been on your back, like on your shoulders, lift. Like there was something metaphysical that you felt was like holding you down. And it's hard to explain, it's hard to express, but as you're holding this Nilbog staff, you feel that kind of lift. And somewhere in the back of your rabbit brain, you feel a grin form. Like something back there is smiling. Yes, Mark.
Since I had a rough visual on the area, did I see which way he went?
He went deeper into the jungle, like straight back from where the guys were going.
So my follow-up question would be, from where the Nilbog was to the direction that he was running, would they meet up and or intersect at some point?
No.
Okay.
He is, if he, so you came in from this side?
Yeah.
Mark?
Yep. Yep.
Irandi, you came in here? You came in here and kept going. So you would have to go that way, back where Mark came from, to get back to the Nilbog. But because you had left, went around the corner, and then came back, this jungle, and because you're dealing with a lot of stresses you have never had to deal with before, you're kind of turned around a little bit.
Well, crap. I'm going to make my way back to the Nilbog and grab him and then try and head in at least a parallel direction as him.
Okay.
Around those guys.
Yep. The grin that is somewhere back here finds its way to your face. You're finding a peace within you, Irandi, you've been at peace before, thinking about your family, thinking about the goblins you've grown up with, thinking about their futures, thinking about being off on your own and exploring and seeing new things and seeing the ways the world works. These things have always brought you a certain measure of joy, but you're grinning as you're leaping off of, like you're parkouring in the jungle right now. As you're passing through the jungle, you're like, boop, leapfrog. You're Luke and Dagobah, is what you're doing. Oh, you're on mute.
What does that mean? I don't watch Star Wars.
Yeah.
Shame.
Yeah. You're muted. I can't hear you.
Sorry, I was coughing and I forgot I muted it. So as I'm jumping through the trees, and I have that moment of 30, like I, in midair, kind of have that like, oh shit, I'm going in the wrong direction.
Yeah. You realize that you have traveled a bit in the wrong direction. You know now you're heading towards that big trail that sometimes the merchants take, when you should be heading now a diagonal back to the right. And Mark,
yeah, I know I changed direction.
You don't like Star Wars, so I'll use a term that you might know. You're moving like Patrick Stewart in Picard season 1, when he's just running a whole bunch from all of the explosions and threats, even though he's like 95, like that.
I hate you so much.
That was the best, Dan.
Okay, so you re-vector and you head back towards where you're pretty sure you saw your uncle heading from, which means that's probably where the Nilbog is as well. And as you make your way and you're almost there, in front of you, you actually see your uncle, Gretnock, and helping the Nilbog, who seems out of breath and kind of a lot more tired than you've seen him, almost drained. He's an older goblin, venerable, and just ancient. And as he is within eyeshot of you through the dense jungle, you also see several humans behind you, or behind him, heading for your uncle and the Nilbog, and almost as a last resort, several things happen at once. The Nilbog notices before Gratnog. The humans all pull up small wooden devices that look kind of like a bow, but on its side, and it's smaller. Because you've never seen crossbows, and they all point them at Gretnock and the Nilbog, and you can hear loud twangs as these things fire projectiles. The Nilbog turns around and with a sweep of his hands blows a wall of dirt and twigs and branches up from the jungle floor into the path of these arrows and back at the humans, who now have pieces of wood and stuff sticking out of them, and so they're trying to correct that problem, but it's too late. The crossbow bolts that were meant for both you and Gritnock, one of them found its way to the Nilbog, and he is laughing quietly to himself as Gritnock is trying to pull him closer to you, Irandi. The humans are still trying to pull pieces of debris from their faces and their hands, pretty distracted with that as you guys pull the Nilbog closer to you.
Can I use my last first level spell?
You can try. You can certainly try.
Yep. I would try and healing word him.
So as you reach within you to pull the face of the nameless grin through the jungle, you can feel it stop at your feet. Usually when you cast the spell, you pull the energy from the plants around you from the ground below your feet and flow that energy, almost massaging it into the person that you're trying to heal. It stops inches from the Nilbog, and you have no idea why.
Well, shit. Run!
The Irandi, you're there. You have closed the distance.
How many of those guys are there, the humans?
There are 3 right now that are trying to pull pieces of twigs and small bits of stone out of their skin. Like, it perforated them.
They haven't seen me yet, have they?
Not to the best of your... Well, okay, so they saw
To the best
you...
of my knowledge, they haven't seen
Yeah,
me.
they saw you well enough at the time to shoot crossbow bolts at you and at the 3 of you. The Nilbog blocked the arrows out of the sky except for the one that hit him. And you're now standing right next to him. Naomi needs to head out really quick. She'll be right back. Yeah, I was going to ask if I should hang up the call or just leave it. Yeah.
I'm going to kneel down next to the Nilbog and really quickly imagine the whole village again and all those people and like all that, like the all that good feeling that you have when you imagine home. And I'm gonna cast Spare the Dying on the Nilbog.
Okay. Okay. You through a bit through the staff, but also through using your faith, you move close to the Nilbog, and you feel his hand wrap around your ankle because he's on the ground, and he says, I always knew I wasn't meant here forever. I just thought I'd see the next group of podlings. And then he goes still. You're pretty sure your spell took root, but he is either unconscious or dead. You feel a burning sensation on your ankle from where his hand is still wrapped around your ankle.
Yeah, I immediately try to get ow, fuck.
As you kind of pry his wrist away from your ankle, you see that there's an area that is there's an area that is burned in the fur, almost like a brand, and it is a shaky. Okay, so you know how when somebody draws a river on a map, it's not just a swoop. You know, it's a.
Yeah.
So something like that, but it's a grin, and you know it's a grin, and it's been essentially branded into your ankle as something passed between him and you in that way. He is very still. When you guys get really, really close, you can tell that he is breathing, but it's extremely shallow and ragged. Yes, Mark.
I turn to you and say,
Can you carry him?
I think so, yeah. And
Ryan and I will follow.
And I stand up and I turn back to the closest human, and I start to cast my cantrip again.
Small little crawlies writhing and biting, take your fill until they're bawling.
And then I cast an infestation on him again.
Okay. On the one that was
the closest one, whatever the closest one is.
Oh, okay, from these three. Yeah. So you said it was a Constitution saving throw?
It is. Sorry, I just put it down. Where did it go? It is a cantrip infestation. It is. I assume they are within 30 feet, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
They're probably at 30 feet. Yeah.
Yeah. Constitution saving throw.
Okay. Can I have you roll a d6 and a d4 for me?
Yes. D6 is a 5, and the D4 is a 3.
Okay. You see him start swatting at. I mean, he's really far away, so you can't really tell. But Rhonda, you assume that he's swatting at another swarm, and he starts jetting to the left, like cutting through the jungle away from you guys. The other two have almost finished pulling stuff out of themselves with a lot of grunts and cries of pain. And you guys have. I'm assuming, Arandi, that you have the Nilbog?
Yeah.
Okay. And his bag of stuff, probably. We didn't really talk about what you did with it. I assumed you
Yeah, I just like
put it over your shoulder or something. Yeah. And you grab it, and you've got his small form, and you can feel that he's a lot lighter and cooler than you would have thought, just based on some of the other goblins you've been around. You've roughhoused with your brothers and sisters your whole life, so you know how heavy a goblin is. This is much lighter, and you guys are cutting back through which direction?
I'm gonna try and get back to the village.
Okay. And you head back towards the village. Yeah. Do you have anything, Gretnock, do you have anything specific you're doing?
No. I'm just watching our back, and if they get within 30 feet, then I'll cast the cantrip again, just to try and keep them off us.
Okay. You cast the cantrip a couple more times, and they are now running off. Those ones are not following you anymore. They're running off into the jungles. And let's go ahead and take a break as you guys are heading back to the village. Let's go ahead and take a bathroom break. Let's meet back here at... How long is that song, Mark?
5 minutes for most of them.
Is that enough time for you guys? Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm good.
Sweet,
Okay.
sweet. So let's say 5 minutes, and we will be right back.
Okay.
This is awesome, Dan. Who doesn't have his headset on so he can't hear me?
Yes. That is 100% correct.
Yeah.
I just noticed that too.
Did you see what I said to you in chat?
Oh no. Hold on.
or I guess it was Dan, where Dan was saying, "Oh, you'll roll better eventually." I was like, "Yeah, I rolled 4 ones in a row in my game on Sunday."
Nice.
But luckily for me, that character got reincarnated as a halfling, so I have halfling luck.
Nice.
Any ones I get to reroll.
We'll do Undertale today. Oh, but he left it on the wrong screen. Oh, plus it's not been doing it lately. I don't know why. It's like my Undertale, I think, is the command. Oh, nobody did do it. Okay, great. I'll be back.
Okay. I was told that my sound was a little bit low in there, how about that?
There
How
we go.
about that? I was
How
told
about that?
that my sound is good in Discord, but was low for the stream, so I think I turned myself up in the stream, so we'll see. 1 second. Five whole minutes. 5 whole minutes that could ask me any questions you wanted. He waits until the second I start back up. Love you, buddy. Alright. As you make your way back into the village, you see that many of the huts have been smashed and just completely and totally wrecked. You are carrying the Nilbog's body. You see that he is not the only one that has been taken as a casualty, though the others that you see are quite obviously beyond faith words of healing. Not a lot, but a couple. And already goblins who have returned have covered most of them. So you just see still forms beneath blankets or sheets to let you know that there have been some casualties in this attack. It is a somber time. The Gretnock, as the kind of next shaman in line, you help where you can, and you apply salves and stop bleeding and get things back to where they kind of should be. Your spell, Spare the Dying, the Nilbog, whether it's the damage and his age or the activity in his age, he is conscious. You guys are able to remove the quarrel from him. That is Spare the Dying, right?
Or Spare the Dying stabilizes.
Yeah, that's what I thought. And so he's still not 100%. He is an old dying goblin, and he was already an old dying goblin before today, but this definitely hastened that. As you guys start piecing together the Sleeping Root Village and start getting kind of estimates on what can be repaired, who is still here, who may have gotten lost in the jungle, and you guys need to go find them and bring them back from goblins just running into the jungle. You're able to kind of find a peace and a semblance of order. When you rebuild, or begin to rebuild, or clear out and rebuild the Nilbog's hut, he is a permanent fixture there. He is not getting back up from this, and you know that. The next day, you try your healing magics again, and they do nothing. They close the wound. They clear his lungs from the heavy cough he had, but something has been taken out from him. Like, you can tell that he is showing his age much more now than he was before the raid, before these humans of the Dark Sun raided. He also says that the Nilbog staff,
Uh-huh.
one of the items he forgot to grab was the piece that should be fitted to the top. It's missing a piece of the staff. And he seems very, very focused on the fact that it's missing this faceted piece. And you can see where on the staff, you can see it now. You gave him back his staff, and you can see where at the front of it, at one of the knobbier parts, there is in fact where something should fit. It's about the size of maybe a 2-inch coin that should fit at that front, and you remember seeing it there. You're not sure how it came off, and he hasn't said anything in his meandering stories about why it was removed or anything, but you can see that it's missing. And one of the stories, about a week after the attack, he explains that he had taken the coin off to perform some rituals to it to be able to reapply it so it could be handed off as a usable item to the next Nilbog or somebody else in the community that could use it. Not everybody can use the staff of the Nilbog. It became very clear that when these huts were raided, that was one of the things that must have been taken.
So there were a lot of things taken.
Yeah. But this coin, a symbol of office, if you will, was one of those things.
So as I'm like tending to the Nilbog, I'm like, shh, I can get it back. We can get it back. It's only been a couple of days. We can track them and we can get everything back. And I started thinking about like, that's the purpose then. They've protected me for so long. I should go. When we've been attacked, I should make it right.
Okay. As you are explaining this to your uncle, to your parents, most of the goblins you're talking to try to explain that items can be replaced, that they wouldn't want something bad to happen while you're out there, they care about you, while some of the others, especially some of the younger goblins and a couple of the elders, know that some of the items that were taken had deep faith beliefs. They were tied deeply to. There aren't a lot of objects and items that are passed down, and so some of the items that were taken were old weapons that some of the goblin elders had, and essentially it comes down to trophies, right? The humans that came here were looking for trophies, and they got trophies. Very few of them were probably usable by those giant apes, but it doesn't mean that they didn't want them or want to take them. So, a lot of the items taken, some of these younger generation goblins and some of the elders want back, and so they back you 100%. Ironically, while your father, Topknock, while he is not in favor of you going, he is one of the people that believes that any items can be replaced, but if something happened to you, if something happened to some of these other goblins, they can't be replaced. Your mother, Yams, believes that you should go. When you mentioned that you felt deeply that this may be one of the reasons that you were kind of given or found this tribe, she believes it may be something like a calling, that maybe it'll help you figure out your path. And so she gives you a large, for her, ceremonial mask. some of these rites and rituals have used drum beat. Some of them use these large carved masks. Some of them use other types of costumes or tunes or songs. She has a large ceremonial mask, and it's a mask that fits her from about a foot taller to her head to just lower than her belly button. So it's a fairly large mask for a goblin. And it's carved in kind of a goblin face with a giant grin made out of seashells. And they had to explain to you what seashells were because it's another thing you've never seen. And she gives it to you and gives it to you with luck because it's always given her luck and it's always been there to help her find her way through rituals and rites. And I mean, it probably is a little ironic that your mom's kind of faith object is just the right size for a shield for you. So it's almost like your mom's faith is shielding you. And so she gives you that, and you get a couple other small items and trinkets. A small stone dagger that can be used for daggery things, but you essentially get loaded up with some survival goods and some goblin type weapons and stuff to help track down some of these items. And you take a band of 5 goblins. It's 1 elder. It's Gretnock. It's 3 younger goblins who are young adults, and all of you have been kind of loaded up for survival and for the hunt. And you make your way out at the end of that day. So you're making your way into the jungles as night falls.
Yeah, we'll start tracking these humans and trying to figure out where they went. I assume maybe one of the other goblins is like a really good tracker, like one of the scouts.
So your uncle is both a druid, but also he was a scout for years and years and years. So he's the one that's kind of leading the scouting party. As you are walking, you realize fairly quickly that this specific elder, a female elder that calls herself the Grand Papaya, she was actually a warrior, and she is one of the only warriors you know from this tribe because you didn't realize there were any warriors. But she has a large club and wields it almost like it's weightless. Like it's the same size as she is, and she's carrying it with like one hand over her shoulder.
Yeah, whoever's leading the guiding or the tracking, I'm gonna cast guidance on them so that way they can find their way better.
So, Mark, go ahead and roll me a perception check or an investigation check. We're gonna say it's also a +4, and you're gonna get a +D4 from guidance.
So it's 11 plus 3, 14.
Okay. You start to make your way. These humans did not try to be one with the jungle like you guys are. And so following their path isn't super difficult. Most of the things that you guys have hidden from or tracked in the jungles did a good job of hiding their tracks. These are, even in the dark, these are pretty... Do you have dark vision or low light, Irandi? You might have low light.
No.
Okay, no? So, you sit a little bit further back from the scouts, from your scout uncle, with a really small torch when you need it. You'll light it, use it for a little bit, and then put it out and follow the goblins, because they all move through the darkness. It's one area that they absolutely excel. But knowing you're behind them and that you've been trained in the same way they are, it means that you can cut through the jungles really easily as well. But you guys follow the tracks from all of these humans, which converge back onto the merchant's route, which is the trail that they keep cutting back, right? That has 2 deep grooves, and you can see that the large booted humans stomped flat the grasses and the plants here on this path to the left, and you track that up for a bit. You hear them and smell them long before you see them. They're laughing, talking, chatting, and they have several large fires, probably to shoo away all the other threats in the jungle. But as you guys round the corner, you see they've set up camp right off of the main road. It's an area they've cut back. They're using wet, wet lumber and stuff so that there's even more smoke to cook some kind of meat on a skewer over. But there are several, like half of them, that have just bumps and lumps all over their exposed skin from mosquito bites, insect bites, just a face of small lumps.
I look very proud.
Towards the back, so there are 7 of them. Towards the back, there are 2 of them that seem to be going through a box of collected items. Like they all dumped their collected items into a box, and you can see some of the items that were specifically mentioned by the goblins. Just kind of going through small weapons, or like a carved gourd, or there's a musical instrument that's made up of a couple different pieces of jungle fufura, and then you see a thinner human dressed the same way but taller. You didn't see him in the raid. You're not even sure if he was in the raid, but he is dressed the same and he's sitting all the way at the back, kind of also going through the box of goods, and you see him pull up a coin, and the coin is about that big and has some kind of, it's carved with something, but you can't really tell, and he holds it up to the firelight, and you can see the flickering firelight play across its surface. And then he bites it and seems happy with it and places it in a pocket somewhere right here on his upper chest. And then they go back to going through the items. You are fairly certain, Arandi, that was the. You're not super close. It's dark, but you're pretty sure that was the coin. Since, I mean, most of the goblins in your village don't use coins or have any need for a coin.
I'm gonna cast Disguise Self to look like one of these guys.
Okay. You.
Oh, fellow human.
Sorry.
You bend low, and you guys can hear him whispering to himself. And you are looking at the humans in the campfire, and then you look across, and there's one of them with you here.
Holy shit!
Not really.
Make a distraction. I'll go get our stuff. And I'm gonna start walking in.
I'll cast
and doing like my best like human walking impression. I'm human. I walk here.
I'll
Hey.
cast Entangle on the ones by the fire
Okay.
to make the distraction.
I'm a human.
I have a question.
Yeah.
How tall is he?
As a
Because
human.
I think Harengon are typically pretty like small.
So
they could be medium.
They can be.
Oh, okay.
They can be. You can choose which size you are. When
I
you
see.
choose and they're small and medium. And I picture him as tall medium. How
Okay.
tall did you picture yourself?
I wrote it down somewhere.
Not counting the ears.
So without the ears, I'm 5'6".
Oh,
with
wow.
The ears, and with the ears, I'm 6'8".
Wow. Okay.
Out of growth spurt.
So I have a question for you. Since I'm trying to make this a distraction, I'm not so much trying to kill them or do anything that bad. If I do this near the fire, is it going to set the vines on fire?
So I think Entangle normally does.
So then, yeah.
Wait, is it Entangle or is it Web that lights on fire?
Web definitely does. I think Entangle does.
I mean, it doesn't say specifically anything about it, so I was like,
well then, do you want it to?
Oh, 100%.
Then we'll say it does.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to grab them, and then it slithers into the fire and lights them on fire, and then they can see that the fire's heading towards them up the vines. That's exactly what I want.
Okay. You whisper and move your fingers, and you do that, and as you are I'm a human, walking up to the humans, the fire, the bonfire that they have cooking grows over that area, and they start to freak out because it's starting to come towards them as these vines are spreading from the ground. And you make your way fairly easily in amongst them, as the ones near the fire are trying to help each other get out of the fire.
All right, so I'm going to try and get close to the one that pocketed the coin and then steal the coin out of his pocket.
Oh. Can you guidance yourself? You can, right?
Yeah.
I believe you can, yeah.
So
yeah,
I would suggest guidancing yourself and then give me a sleight of hand.
And then roll high is what he's saying. I speak Daniel.
And a 2.
Even better. I rolled a 1. And got a 2 on the D4 for a grand total of 5.
Okay. As you walk up to the human in the back and start to reach for his pocket, he looks at you and looks at your hand and says, No, you know the spoils of war. Put them out. He's talking.
He says, put them out?
Put them out, like the people who are on fire at the fire, like who are standing too close to the fire. He doesn't even see the entangle. He just assumes they got too close to the fire. As you are closer to this individual, give me an Arcana check.
Where I get a 19. 19.
Okay. You almost get like an oily feeling being near him, like he is something mystical and dirty.
Hmm. Screw it. I'm gonna go for it again. Well, so I rolled a 1, and he just clocked that I was coming towards him, right?
Yeah, and that you were reaching for his pocket. You might have been able to like bluff it off if you hadn't rolled a 1. He thought you were coming for what he selected as his part of the treasure.
Okay, so then like what's immediately like on the floor that I can grab and maybe activate?
Activate?
I'm just gonna grab something and hopefully it's magical.
Oh. I can say that most of your goblin friends did not have hidden magical items.
Trying to think what to do to get through. Screw it. I'm gonna cast Bane on the 3 of them and just try and take it again, and then get out of there.
Okay.
So with Bane, it's 3 people. So the 3 people immediately in front of me, including the wizard guy, they got to give me charisma saving throws.
Okay. And what does it do?
The number is 13.
Okay, and what does it do if they fail?
Then they are, especially the opposite of blessed. So they have whenever a target that fails a saving throw makes an attack roll or a saving throw before the spell ends, the target must roll a d4 and subtract that number.
Yep. The wizard is the only one that failed.
Oh, sick.
Yeah.
Is the wizard the one in front of him?
Yes.
Okay.
So, what would you like to do?
Yeah, I'm gonna take the thing from him. This time I'm not like trying to be sneaky about it. I'm like going for it and taking it.
Okay, so go ahead and give me a, because you're gonna be quick like a rabbit. Go ahead and give me a. We're gonna do a contested dexterity roll for him to try to swat your hand out of the way as you're like grabbing it. So go ahead and give me a dexterity check, not a dexterity saving throw, but a dexterity check.
16.
Nice. And that beats mine. I got a 13. You super quick, because you saw where he placed it, you kind of grab his robe around the coin and feel the coin in your hand as you pull your hand back. And his eyes go wide, and it's almost like he takes a second to really look at you, and then his eyes, like, he squints looking at you, and then his eyes go wide as he realizes you're not one of his people.
Yeah, because I have like that, like the human equivalent of like the ditto face.
Yeah. You're a human, but with eye smile. Yeah, Mark.
Your poly is wearing off.
Nice.
Could I see him snatch it from where I'm at?
Yes.
Okay. So then what I would do is firing off my second spell of the day, place another entangle so that the wizard is the farthest it goes, so it doesn't get him.
Okay.
Which I think would get the other 2 guys that are behind him as well. And they just need to make strength saving throws.
Okay.
Versus whatever my spell save DC is. I don't know what it is.
I do.
Okay. And it's 20 foot in all. It's basically 20 foot from the square I throw it, and I want to make sure the wizard is the last 20.
It makes it difficult terrain either way, right?
Correct, it does.
Yeah. The wizard,
but if they fail, then they're restrained and can't move.
The wizard failed, but partially because he's already taking a minus 1d4.
Yes.
Because he was baned. Okay. Yeah. As you start to back up away from the wizard, and he's realizing that you're not what you say you are, vines grow up around him and start growing in the area between you two. And he calls out and says, "It's one of them! There must be more! Kill them all!" And the one guy that's not currently entangled or in an entangled spot or fighting fire, draws his crossbow and starts pointing it. Not sure where he's supposed to be pointing it, but he's pointing it out into the darkness, as if he fired blindly and it would hit a goblin.
I attack the darkness.
Essentially. Stupid humans. And as you are backing up, it is the wizard's turn, and he begins to say, he begins a chant that is dark and malicious, and you can feel your insides burning a little bit as he is casting this spell around you. Give me a 1 second. I want to make sure because I read this spell last week, but I want to make sure I'm remembering it right. Yeah, charisma saving throw.
It's a 2.
A 2.
I'm just rolling so terrible. This is what I get for rolling so well on everyone else's.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't read that version.
That's not what you want to hear. I didn't know it's like a microwave inside you.
It's weird. It's super specific too. Cooked rabbit.
Yeah, I was gonna say you don't want to overcook rabbit. Comes real tough.
You, as you are feeling this kind of sensation beginning in your chest and moving out through your limbs, you can see that your skin is slowly beginning to glow. And you're shifting back into your Hurigan form. From your point of view, Gretnock, you see your nephew as he's slowly backing away from the mage, confused, and he looks straight at you. And as he looks straight at you, you know how, like, when you've probably, I hope, have seen it when you light, like, steel wool on fire,
Mm-hmm.
and it has that line of burn?
Yeah.
You see his body starting to do that, where it's burning in, like, a red line across, and it's not leaving anything behind.
Can I use my bonus action?
Sure.
A healing word him.
He isn't being injured.
Oh, okay. Well, I wouldn't know that, so I
Right.
still cast it anyways.
You cast and you feel it take root, and is it 1? Is it 1 hit point?
It's 1d4 plus
1d4.
my spell casting.
So go ahead and roll 1d4.
2 plus whatever my spell casting is.
So you're gonna roll back. You're gonna heal back 4 hit points. I was keeping track of it here, so yeah, I didn't have you keeping track of it, but you healed back 4 hit points from the damage you had taken. And he seems to slowly burn out of existence.
Lick.
Combat begins in earnest, the young goblins especially, but Grand Papaya takes his, what it looks like he was just burned out of existence, and they take that as like a warning charge, like a war charge, and they charge in, and in the first time in a long time, you see goblins going to war and being ruthless. These humans didn't stand a chance.
Well, I mean, they're all entangled too, so they can't go anywhere.
They're entangled, they are in the dark, there are fires here, but the young goblins especially are very quick on that and put the fires out, then the humans don't even know where you guys are attacking from.
And I'm going straight for the wizard.
Yep.
Yep.
And you guys are able to solve that problem and bring back the gear that was stolen.
Well, I mean, I would be checking around it for any signs or trace of.
There is no trace. There's no ashes. I mean, you'd think that if he was actually burned, there'd be ashes.
What about?
But for a moment,
praying to the forest to the. Oh, go ahead.
So you stand in or right near the spot where he disappeared, and you're not getting a negative feeling. Like normally spells that killed people, you'd be able to feel the death in that area. You're not feeling that. You do not think it actually killed him.
I have a question for you.
Yep.
How much of a body is necessary for? I'm not asking necessarily for that specific instance, but how much do you need to do revival?
I think it's a pound.
Okay. I'm going to cut a pound of the wizard and put it in my sack and take it with me.
Okay.
Metal.
You toss the piece in your sack and you go back.
As well as getting the box of the rest of the stuff. Did we find the coin or no?
No.
Okay.
You did see him take it.
Right. That's why I was asking. Yep.
Yeah, so you make your way back. There's a little bit of tears when you come back with the news, but no regret. Both of his parents feel that he was doing what he was supposed to be doing, and that they'll see him again. Especially when you explained that you do have the ability to feel dead spots, and that was not what you felt at all. So they do have some form of peace with that.
I'm probably the only magic user in the camp, correct?
Yes. And as you go and talk to the Nilbog, he doesn't have his staff.
Is there... The dwarves come and trade with us, correct?
Yes.
Do they ever bring priests or clerics with them?
It's kind of strange, those meeting groups. There isn't often that kind of trade, but you have made requests before, and they have as well. If there's some kind of specific plant they're looking for, you guys can go and harvest more of it or whatever. So it is possible to send that.
So you get where I'm going with that, yes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And plans are set in motion to try to find out a better answer for where Irandi has gone. Irandi, you feel like somebody just drew your outline and then filled it in with color. I don't have another way to put that. You are sitting in a carved chair. You are sitting at the edge of a large gorge. Like sitting out in front of you, the gorge goes off in a lot of directions, almost like the brand or mark that's on your heel. Like it goes off and it's deep, but you see like the flatland. It's essentially the Grand Canyon. You see like the Grand Canyon ahead of you. and
Okay.
you're sitting in a chair about 5 feet from the edge. The soil and the rocks are all reddish, orangish tints. There's scrub brush and small, like Joshua trees and stuff around you. In the chair next to you is a young human boy. He has blonde hair, really bright blue eyes, and he says, "Huh," and he's looking at you with a look of confusion.
This boy, I swear.
Hi,
Are you saying hi in Goblin?
Goblin.
Okay.
Yeah.
He says in Goblin, I, "You're different," and he leans over and kind of softly, not a poke, but like a touch on on like your shoulder, and says, "Huh, you what happened that brought you here?"
A stomach ache? Oh no, a wizard pointed at me, I think, and I felt really funny, and now I'm here.
Huh. Yeah, your aura is very different than the others. Um, I just, I'm, I'm, I'm not surprised you're here, but I'm surprised how you got here. Um, but welcome. Um, and he
Where's here?
sits back, he shoots back, and he grabs a bowl from the chair next to him and hands it to you, and hands you, but it's a very pretty fine wooden bowl and has some stew in it, some vegetarian stew, and has some kind of utensil sticking out of it, and he picks one up for himself after he hands it to you, and says, "You're backstage, um, waiting for an encore, but it's strange because you never finished the play." And then he takes a bite of the stew, and as you kind of look out and then look back at this young boy, it's just an empty chair with a bowl of steaming stew sitting on it.
Oh, the boy's gone?
Yeah.
Well, I'm not eating stew now.
And that's where we're going to end for tonight. Thank you guys very much. Thank you guys for playing and for hanging out and for listening. This was the backstory for Iranti, who is our Herengon cleric, and we have Kingdom Death Monster next week. So we'll be doing that next Monday, and then following that, we have one of the last 4 character backstories that we'll be doing, and then we'll be picking up for the adventure with everybody together. So thank you all for being here.
Thank you, Dan. That was awesome.
Thank you for running, Dan.
That was great.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Thanks, man.
And I'm super excited for Kingdom Death Monster because the last game was so much fun.
Maybe this time we'll be able to get Megan a character that doesn't die immediately.
Doesn't lose
Yes.
arms.
Yeah.
Yes. Hopefully.
I love you guys. Drink some water, take care of yourselves, and yeah, game on. Go ahead, Mark. Do the thing.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We're going to raid out to Egg Roll. Make sure that you give him some noise. Just let him know you're there. Spam some emotes or something along those lines. Thank you all for joining. We'll be back tomorrow, 7 p.m. Pacific, 9 Central, 10 Eastern, for something. I don't know what, honestly. Probably Magic at this rate. So join us then if you'd like to play some Magic. 7 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Pacific, 9 Central, 10 Eastern. Be excellent to each other. And of course, game on. And Dan, did you